Well, this just in, college hoops is out there for the masses, where Kansas at the top of the preseason AP top 25. The Jayhawks are #1 for the third time since Bill Self took over out there in Lawrence since 2003. It's also the first time KU has been ranked preseason #1 since the 2018-19 season. Our partners at FanDuel out there in Vegas Sportsbook, by the way, have Kansas as the favorite to win that natty at 10-1. Taking a look at the top 10, though, out of the 25, of course, we just talked about Jayhawks at #1 and Duke at #2, Purdue, Michigan State, and then Marquette rounding out the top 5. But look at number 10. The Owls not too far from us here in Fort Lauderdale, of course. FAU 18-2 last season, of course, checking in at number 10. All right, nobody better to talk to about this than, of course, our insider, the man himself, Matt Norlander. Of course, this coming out for the masses today. Your reaction there, seeing Kansas at #1. Let's start there.
An obvious pick, not surprised by it whatsoever. I will tip my hand slightly every year, as our longtime viewers, listeners to the pod, and readers to CBSSports.com know. I rank top 100 teams in college basketball. I am not going to take Kansas at #1 because it feels like the groupthink has taken over here. Having said that, Kansas is a logical, reasonable pick. They brought in Hunter Dickinson, who was the most coveted transfer on the market. He comes by way of Michigan. They return Dwan Harris, one of the best pass-first point guards in the sport. They return Kevin McCullough Jr., who's one of the best defenders in the sport. KJ Adams will be just an ultra-dynamic forward that can grow in a number of ways. And they've got a great freshman I love named Elmarko Jackson. So Kansas favored to win the Big 12. Preseason #1 for the third time under Bill Self. Only the fourth time in school history they've earned the #1 spot up top the preseason AP top 25. They're a reasonable pick, but history suggests that the team that is actually picked first in the preseason does not go on to win the national championship. That has overwhelmingly been the case in now the 75-year history of the AP top 25 poll.
Wait, so I'm curious. If Kansas is not your #1, you care to tell us who might be in your projections #1?
I'm not going to spoil that. You'll have to wait until next week to see it revealed. However, I will say it is a team that is currently in the top 10 in the preseason AP top 25.
In the top 10. All right, Matt, I see you always teasing us here. All right, speaking of number 10, that spot there, FAU, maybe a surprise to see them there, but not, of course, after how we saw them finish last season. Your reaction to seeing them, the Owls, there at number 10.
Deserve it. So college hoops diehards are aware of the fact that Monday was the release of the AP Top 25 and Sunday was the highly anticipated release of KenPom's preseason rankings. FAU 10 here, deserved 37th at KenPom. No love in the predictive algorithm over there. The Owls are deserving because they returned 90% of their minutes from the Final Four team. That team won 35 games, more than any other school in the country last season. Dusty May was able to retain every eligible player on this roster. Nobody transferred out. Obviously, this is a great thing for the sport. You see a lot of familiar names there. You see reigning national champion UConn in there. But for FAU to crack the top 10 of a preseason poll in basketball, it's one reason why I love the sport so much, because we can have these awesome stories heading in. We don't have to wait until March, Brandon. We can get them going into November. It's validated. I'm a tad skeptical that we'll look up in March and see the Owls being top 10 variety. I think top 20 is more likely. They're also changing leagues and going to the American Athletic Conference. But given how much returns from a team that made the Final Four and had more wins than any other school last season, a top 10 ranking is both historic and deserved for Dusty May's program.
Owls trying to get back there with Dusty May, as you just mentioned there. I want to go back to number 2. Duke is there. We're trying to get to a Final Four as well this upcoming season. Your thoughts, John Chire again at the helm. Their projections there at number 2.
Duke had a good season in Shire's year 1. Now, year 2, you see Kyle Filipowski there. He'll be in the running for a preseason All-American status. They got Jeremy Roach back to run the offense, which I think is big time. They got Tyrese Proctor, who could have a huge breakout season. So Duke being in that top 3 conversation, not that big of a surprise. If I can quickly tour around the rest of the top 10 for you, Purdue at preseason number 3. That is the number 1 team, according to KenPom, heading into the season. It has Zach Edey back, the National Player of the Year, who will be favored to do that again. The Boilermakers have to get past their bugaboo in March. We'll see. I think Purdue has a real case. Michigan State was a huge offseason winner because of how much it brought back. Marquette has never been ranked this high in the preseason, and it hasn't been ranked this high, period, since 1978. So good for Shaka Smart and the Golden Eagles, who won both the Big East regular season and postseason titles the first time in school history. And then you've got your reigning national champions, UConn. Currently, Donovan Clingan, expected to be the biggest breakout player in the country after coming off the bench. He's got a foot issue right now, Brandon, so he is hopefully returning in time for the start of the season, but he's off for the preseason. You see the rest of that: Houston, Creighton, Tennessee. It's going to be an awesome year. The SEC leads the way with 5 teams in the preseason AP Top 25. It might be the SEC or the Big 12 to be the best league in the country this season. I would personally lean Big 12. The SEC, our preview is up at CBSSports.com right now. We've got a lot of diversity of thought in terms of who is actually going to be the best team in that league, but the SEC leads the way. And then one more thought, my best team that's not ranked, give me the Virginia Cavaliers. I like what Tony Bennett's got there. The Cavs have done well in the ACC, not ranked in the preseason. I think we will look up and see Virginia as a top 3 team in the ACC by the time we get to March.
I was trying to gauge your excitement there when you talk about those other teams in the top 10. I couldn't figure it out. I saw a little love, Purdue, Michigan State. I'm just curious, but I didn't get it. But before I let you go, top 25, give me a team surprise, maybe too low, that you saw today.
Oh, good question there. A team that might be a little too low. How about Texas A&M? I think they've got a chance to win the SEC. They weren't expected to be a preseason top 10 kind of team. They've got a guy, Wade Taylor IV. If you're looking for a player who's really, really good, but a sleeper from an All-American status, I think Texas A&M has a chance under Buzz Williams to really make a strong, strong push there. And if you ask me the underrated, I'll also give you a little bit of the overrated. Gonzaga is 11th. The bona fides are obvious there, but they don't have Drew Timme. I'm curious about whether or not Gonzaga can actually maintain a top 15 status this season. I think it'll get to the tournament again, but I'm not sure if this team is in the top tier or even a notch below this season.
Plenty to watch here, and Matt Norlander is the guy to follow. Appreciate it as always, Matt, breaking it down with that AP Top 25 now out for the masses. Want to take a look at the top 10 again? Yes, Kansas at #1 under Bill Self. Then John Shire, year 2 at Duke, and then Purdue, Michigan State, and then Marquette. Shaka Smart there, of course. Interesting to see how that pans out. And FAU, maybe the shocker, not last year, but maybe right now at number 10. We'll see how the Owls fly high in 2023-24.